What's up, dudes? HW here. Whew, I kind of got lost in that jam a little bit. There's some cool stuff there. It's kind of reminiscent of an old tune I used to play in a band I used to be in, and it had this great. It was this little solo section that kind of went to the B minor and to the D major 7, the G, like a G2. I love that riff too. I stole that from an old Bob Dylan song called Hold On. You know, hold on, and keep your eye on the prize, hold on. The trumpet does that and the guitar doubles it. Man, I love this guitar. So much better than all the Fenders that I find in Guitar Center these days. I don't know, man. I talked about this in the last video, but I'll get to the topic in a second. But the last video I talked about, you know, the Fenders at Guitar Center. The Fender is cooked, and Guitar Center, I can't find any good stuff. I go look at the new stuff that just came out at NAMM. Everything says made in Ensenada, and the setups are all kind of all over the place, in my opinion. Unequal string length, height all over, like just, you pick up a guitar and it's just not really great. This guitar I ordered. It's a Fender Japanese. Paid what one of those Pro 2s cost. Bone nut. Signature model, made in Japan for the Japanese market only. Somebody brought it over here. Found it for sale on Marketplace. The band, it's a signature from a band called Fuji Fabric in Japan. And it's freaking stellar, man. Anyway, not the point of today's video. Wonderful afternoon here in Nashville. Get ready to timestamp it, boys. Here's where we're starting with the title. There's always people down in the comments who don't like me to chat for a minute or two and say what's up. They're always like, get to it. Stop wasting our time. Today's video is about, we have too many modelers, way too many modelers. I did a video a couple days ago that was all about what's the best modeler in 2025. And you guys, so many comments were like, you didn't mention this one. You didn't mention this. You didn't mention Axe. I know I left out Axe. What I said about Helix applies to Axe. It still sounds great. Unless you are a believer, and I kind of did touch on this. I said, unless you are a believer that the modeling stuff that's out there is the best sounding unit, because that's your opinion, a lot of that stuff falls behind in terms of features. I'll just put it this way. For me, all the Axe Effect stuff falls behind the Quad Cortex in terms of features, because unless you say it has more sounds that I like than the Quad Cortex, if you just look at the features, Axe is behind. They don't do capture. They don't have a touch screen. And one of the things that really gets me about Axe is I cannot use that thing unless I use the editor. I'm not going to be fumbling around on that rack unit, on the 3. I'm not going to be fumbling around on the 9 or the 3 trying to actually edit a lot of stuff. It's just not going to happen. So, that can be a downside. Not everyone wants to do that. I think that is actually the biggest downside of Axe Effects. But whatever, you know what I mean? A lot of people think it's the best sounding, and that's fine. They sound great. It's definitely one of the ones that proves anything can trick somebody. And I don't mean that to say, like, if Axe can do it, anybody can do it. No, Axe has always been great sounding. They've always had a ton of options and stuff. I am not an Axe hater. We sell stuff for the Axe Effects, and we are going to continue to, because they're great platforms. I like the tone matching thing. I hope they put in capture tech, but whatever. a lot of people try. How come you didn't mention the M-Wave black box? How come you didn't mention the NAMM pedal from Dimehead Audio? There's so many, and I tried to make a list, and somewhere around 25 modelers, I just was like, forget it, it doesn't matter. I'll get to 50 if I start looking hard enough. And so that's the thing. Assume we have 50 modelers on the market. It's too many. Now, what do I mean when I say it's too many? It's great for the consumer. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great for all of us. The Moore unit is out. The Headrush has the Flex and the big one. And then we've got all the little, the Walrus and the Iridium and the Tonexes and then we've got all of the UA stuff now. Each of those is a little modeler pedal, and that's why to me it's like you have to break. Whenever I make a video like what's the best modeler for this or that, it's like you can't answer that question anymore. Any more than you can make a video that says what's the best amp in the world. Well. The answer is the Deluxe Reverb. Or is it the Princeton Reverb? Or is it the Mesa Lone Star? Or is it the Marshall Plexi? Or is it the Vox AC30? Or is it, all of those things you could say, like, come on, that's like the best. This is what, you would not be laughed out of the room for saying this is the best amp ever made, right? The Vox AC30. Of course somebody thinks that. Of course somebody else says, no, the Deluxe, it does everything. It can do everything. Someone else is going to say, nah, man, the old, the Mark V does everything, and now the Mark VII. There's no way you could, make the case that any amp is the best amp of all time. It might be one of the best or a classic or a great, but it's even sillier than arguing who's like the greatest football player of all time. It's like, how can you even really compare a quarterback's stats to a receiver's stats, especially in a game that's played in a team, especially a team like football, where no matter how big of a star you are, you're only on the field at most half the time. There's a whole nother team that you're not a part of that plays the other side of football, whether you're on defense or offense. So you could never make the case that someone's the great. That's why, if anything, you hear people go really debating who's the greatest football coach, And yeah, basketball they debate, is it MJ or is it LeBron or is it whatever? But even when you compare the stats, all of a sudden you got, I don't know, LeBron's got, like 11 50-point games. And I think Kobe had 11 50-point games in 2 seasons, right? So it's like, it's just all over the place, and the same thing with amps. You can't really compare them. And that's where we're at with modelers. So to me, and what I tried to do in that last video, you've got to break it down. And to me, the most logical categories are this. You've got I do one thing units, meaning they're just amps. Maybe they've got an effect or two, but they are just amp simulator pedals. And to me, that's the Iridium. That's the Tonex. Yes, does it have some effects? Yes, the Tonex does. It does have some effects, and that adds to its usefulness. But I still think primarily it's that company even has other pedals that have effects in it that they sell. The Tonex is for amps. You know what I mean? It has some effects. The Iridium, the Walrus stuff, all the UA stuff, that's all in the digital amp simulator, whether that be captures or models or whatever. Over on this side, you've got the do-it-all, I do everything, I'm an all-in-one modeler. What is that? It's the Kemper profiling amp. It's the Quad Cortex. It's the Helix. It's the, big axe. It's all the axe effects, really. But as you start to get to the smaller sizing, it's the Toemaster Pro. But as some of those start to get smaller, it melds in with some of these over here in the middle that are these little brother units. And that's where I would call the do everything modeler pedals. They're small enough that you could use it as an all-in-one if that was really your goal. But a lot of times you find players using them who not only want amps, but they want some effects, but they also want them small enough to fit on a pedal board. What pedals am I talking about? I'm talking about the HX Stomp, little brother to the Helix. Does it do everything the Helix does? No, it has less DSP, less memory, less buttons, less of a lot of stuff. But does it have the full array of catalog of effects? Yes, it does. Is it the mini Helix? I wouldn't actually call it a mini Helix. It's the little brother. A mini Helix would have all the same DSP and everything. What else is in this category? Maybe the Kemper Player. But the Kemper Player stands out to me as almost being an all-in-one full unit too, because it really is the only unit that is a mini version of the bigger one. Meaning, if you get the Kemper Player, it's more like the HX Stomp. It's a little bit limited. But if you pay for the upgrade, you have the full functionality of a full Kemper. You got all 5 rigs in performance mode. You got all the morphing. The only thing you're missing are a couple ins and outs. That's it. You have all the effects. You have everything. Anything that you can run on a big Kemper, you can run on that unit. The number of effects, everything. The speaker imprints, everything. Kemper cab mode, everything. The Kemper Player is a mini Kemper. It really is. In that way, to me, it stands alone as the only unit that's a mini of a thing. The FM3 is like kind of almost a mini, has a little less DSP, but the way they've partitioned up some of the DSP in the FM9 and 3 make it, I think, pretty usable. But that's sitting in the middle. So it's like you've got amp only, you've got do everything, every effect you could ever want, and then you've got the stuff that sort of just sits in this middle spectrum. And I think largely the middle category is we do amps and we do effects. We do and/or. You could use us just as an effects pedal. You could use us just as an amp pedal. We're small enough. And then you got the quad cortex. That's really an all-in-one, but it's small enough that you could kind of put it on a board. You know, you've got something like you might even say the Helix Stomp is the HX Stomp XL. You know, it's more buttons. Is a little more all-in-one? Yeah, you probably got the users there using it a little more as an all-in-one just because you got the extra buttons. But you still got the DSP limitation and stuff. So, you know, to me, that's why we just have too many modelers to even do the discussion anymore of what's the best modeler. So, I mean, and then you got newcomers like the Moore unit. I started playing that Moore unit, and I'm going to do a video on it. And it's pretty darn good. The effects are good. It sounds good. It's a touchscreen. It's easy to use. It's cheap. It's got a battery. And then you got stuff that is so cheap, like that new little M-Wave thing that runs can run NAM and like 100 effects or so. I can't remember how many effects. But it's like, and it's, what is it, like 60 or 80 bucks? It's absurdly cheap. And so what's the best modeler? There's just too many modelers to even make that thing, and there's too many, you can't even fit them all. You got people in those comments who are going, well, boss pedal, boss pedal, boss pedal. Okay, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, Boss has got some stuff now. I don't know. Yamaha has that THD amp. They've been, you know, a lot of people do it, you know. I'll make another video because this is what's coming next. I don't think actually modeling has gotten much better. I think people have opened up their ears, and I think their desire to have stuff that they take on the road has actually eclipsed their critique of the platforms itself. So that'll be the next video. HW, out.